Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Digital Sleepover. So glad you could join us again for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
We're going to be talking about something pretty interesting tonight. I think something that affects all of us in this digital age.
Absolutely.
And for those of you joining us for the first time, or those who have been with us for a while, you can check out our past deep dives on the channel, wherever you get your podcasts. We've covered a range of topics from, online communities to viral trends and everything in between. But tonight we're tackling something I think we all kind of feel, but maybe don't always talk about, and that's this pressure, this kind of unspoken pressure to be perfect online.
Right. It's like we're all living in this highlight reel where everything has to be filtered and curated.
Exactly. And it's not just about posting the perfect selfie or bragging about, some amazing vacation. It's deeper than that. It's about presenting this idealized version of ourselves in our lives. And the thing is, it can actually make it harder to connect with people authentically.
Yeah, because when everyone's pretending to be perfect all the time, who feels safe enough to be real, to be vulnerable?
Exactly. So that's what we want to explore tonight. In a world of filters and, perfectly posed Instagram pics, how can we embrace our imperfections and build genuine trust-based relationships online?
It's a big question, and one that I think a lot of people are grappling with.
For sure. So let's start by unpacking this whole pressure cooker of online perfection. We're constantly bombarded with images of, the perfect body, the perfect vacation, the perfect life. It's everywhere you look.
And it's not just images. It's the stories we tell ourselves about those images.
Mm.
We see someone's post about their amazing promotion, and we immediately start comparing ourselves and feeling inadequate.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's like we forget that what we're seeing online is just a tiny, carefully curated snapshot of someone's life.
Right. And we don't see the struggles, the behind the scenes, the real stuff that makes up a life.
Exactly. And I think that's where the problems start, because when we're constantly comparing ourselves to these idealized versions of others, it can really mess with our self-esteem.
Absolutely. There's a lot of research out there that shows a strong link between social media use and things like anxiety, depression, and body image issues.
I remember reading an article in Psychology Today a while back that talked about how the more time people spend on social media, the more likely they are to feel anxious and depressed. It's like this constant exposure to perfection just wears us down.
And it can be especially harmful for young people who are still developing their sense of self.
Oh, absolutely. They're bombarded with these images of perfection from all sides, and it can be really hard to filter it all out and develop a healthy sense of self-worth.
And it's not just about self-esteem either. This whole culture of online perfection can also make it harder to form genuine connections with others.
Because how can you connect with someone authentically when you're both hiding behind these carefully constructed facades?
Exactly. It's like we're all wearing masks and we're afraid to take them off because we think we'll be judged or rejected.
So how do we break free from this cycle of perfectionism and start embracing our imperfections, both online and offline?
Well, first we have to recognize that perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Nobody's life is perfect no matter how it looks on Instagram.
Right. And once we start to let go of that idea of perfection, we can start to embrace our imperfections and see them as part of what makes us unique and interesting.
And I think it's also important to remember that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's actually a strength.
Because it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable, to put yourself out there and risk being judged.
But the thing is, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open ourselves up to the possibility of deeper, more meaningful connections with others.
And I think that's something we all crave. Whether we admit it or not, we all want to feel seen and understood for who we truly are.
And the only way to do that is to be willing to show our true selves, even the messy, imperfect parts.
So how do we start putting this into practice? How do we start embracing our imperfections and showing up more authentically online?
Well, I think the first step is to start being more mindful of the content we're consuming online.
So, like, maybe unfollow those accounts that make you feel bad about yourself?
Exactly. And start following accounts that inspire you, that make you feel good about yourself and the world around you.
And what about our own online presence? How can we start being more authentic in the way we present ourselves?
Well, I think it starts with being honest with ourselves about why we're posting.
So, like, are we posting to impress others, or are we posting because we genuinely want to connect with people?
Exactly. And if we're honest with ourselves, we might find that we're posting for the wrong reasons.
And then what? Do we just stop posting altogether?
No, not necessarily. I think it's more about being intentional about what we post and why we're posting it.
So, like, maybe instead of posting that perfectly posed selfie, we post a picture of ourselves just being goofy and having fun.
Exactly. Or maybe we share a story about a time we messed up or failed at something.
Because those are the things that make us human.
And those are the things that people can relate to.
Because let's be real, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes.
Right.
We all have bad days. We all have things we're insecure about.
And it's okay to share those things. It's okay to be vulnerable.
Because when we do, we give others permission to do the same.
And that's how we start to build genuine connections.
And I think that's so important in this digital age where it's so easy to feel disconnected from each other.
Absolutely. We need to remind ourselves that we're all in this together.
And that our imperfections are what make us beautiful.
And that's what makes life interesting.
I love that. So to wrap things up, what's one thing you'd like our listeners to take away from this deep dive?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to remember that you are enough just as you are. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love and connection.
Absolutely. And I would add that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a strength.
And when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open ourselves up to the possibility of deeper, more meaningful relationships.
So let's all make a commitment to show up more authentically, online and offline.
And let's celebrate our imperfections.
Because that's what makes us human.
And that's what makes life beautiful.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So that's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to share them on social media using the hashtag #DigitalSleepoverAuthentic.
We'll be checking in to see what you're all thinking.
And until next time, stay curious, stay kind to yourselves, and stay wonderfully, beautifully imperfect.
See you next time, everyone.